This right here is a wild study that I had to share with you guys, and it really shows you how warped and deranged our economy is now. So look at this. This is in NPR. You'll need more than $100,000 a year in income to afford a typical home, a new study shows. So a pair of recent studies predicts that you need to earn more than $100,000 per year to comfortably afford a typical home in much of the U.S. right now. That's a major jump from just 4 years ago, and it comes at a time when fewer homes are on the market and mortgage rates and housing prices have been high. House hunters, meanwhile, haven't seen their wages increase at the same pace. So listen to this. The exact figures are astounding. A Zillow analysis released in February found that prospective homeowners would have to earn more than $106,000 annually to be able to buy a typical home in the U.S. That's an 80% increase from $59,000 yearly in 2020. So only 4 years ago. $59,000 a year, you'd be able to afford a typical home in the U.S. in 2020. Now it's $106,000. So they go on here and say, in a separate study released Monday, the financial website Bankrate suggested Americans would have to rake in nearly $111,000 per year to afford a median-priced home, which the outlet says costs $402,000. By the way, that's the median house, $402,000. So according to them, the income level that you need surged 50% from 2020. They go on to say the national median household income, according to data from the Census Bureau, is $74,500. So guys, to earn $106,000 a year or more than that, that puts you in like the top 10% or 5% of earners in the country. So basically, only the top 10 or 5% can afford a typical median home in the country. That's astonishing. That's unsustainable, those numbers. Now, by the way, at the same time, because you might say, hey, okay, they can't afford to buy a home, so they can't afford the mortgage or whatever, but they could just rent, right? Well, we just covered the story about how the entire rent market is a fraud in this country. There's massive price fixing. We just covered that story. So much so that the DOJ currently has a lawsuit against the company that is price fixing. So rent has absolutely skyrocketed. Now you need to earn $106,000 a year to afford a median home. I mean, it's no wonder that the homeless rate is massively increasing. Now, we're told all the time by Democrats in this moment that like, oh, the economy's doing great. We've added 15 million jobs and the stock market is soaring and the unemployment rate is low. And look, those just aren't good indicators economically for how your average person is doing. They're just not. Like, okay, the unemployment rate can be low, true, but how many of those people are underemployed? How many of those people are working gig economy jobs? How many of those people have multiple jobs? So that shows you right there that the low unemployment rate, that's really not the end-all be-all. The stock market doing well is a better indication of how the top 10% or 5% of the country is doing. It doesn't show you how, your average person really is doing. And so it can be really misleading. I mean, there's other stats that I think better show the state of the economy, right? I think that when you look at, depending on which number you believe, anywhere from 55% to 80% of the country is living paycheck to paycheck. I think that's a much better indicator. We have credit card debt is through the roof. Student loan debt is through the roof. Medical debt also, I think 1 in 4 Americans have it's actually more than that, right? I think the study I covered recently was like nearly 50%. It's like 40-something% of the country have medical debt. Like, these are a better indicator. And now when you look at these numbers, you can't conclude anything other than the entire system is completely warped. I mean, I don't know how anybody affords anything. And then we haven't even talked about the mortgage rates at the moment. Those went up. And in theory, if those go up, then the housing prices should go down. But they haven't, right? So this is like a nightmare. This is a total nightmare economy. Total house of cards. And so the most frustrating part is that there are ways to fix this, right? There are seemingly pretty straightforward ways to fix this. And nobody's doing any of that, of course, because this country isn't run based off what's good for the American people. It's run because of lobbyists and donors and corporations and robber baron billionaires and corruption. They run everything. So how would you go about fixing this? Well, on the rent issue, the lawsuit is a good start, right? You can't do price fixing anymore. You can't jack up the rates anymore. People just can't afford it. And so the DOJ is doing the right thing on that front. But in terms of purchasing a home, number one, the obvious thing is it's a supply issue, right? And you build more homes, and if you build enough of them, there's more supply out there, and the prices will go down. It's just standard economics there. So that's one thing. But you need more permitting in order to build more, right? So that's something that can be addressed, but it doesn't look like it is being addressed. Okay. But then also there's a massive Wall Street issue as well. I mean, we have these, I always forget which one it is, BlackRock or Blackstone, whichever one, and some others, that they've been buying up a lot of these single family homes all across the country. And either they buy it up and then they rent it at exorbitant rates, or they buy it up and then they try to flip it. And this is driving up the prices massively. I mean, look, that just simply shouldn't be allowed, right? That simply shouldn't be allowed. It should be, an actual family trying to get a house is prioritized far above some soulless investment firm that's trying to make a quick buck. So you absolutely need to regulate that. You absolutely need to ban Wall Street from doing it. And just those two things alone would probably lead to a tremendous change. But like I said, neither one of those things are being done. So instead, we live in this hellscape of a timeline where rent is exorbitant and people can't afford it. And also buying a home is out of reach for now like 90% of the country. Guys, that's unsustainable. That's unsustainable. You're just begging for some sort of a revolt or a revolution. The wages aren't going up enough. The jobs kind of suck. Now rent is too expensive, but buying a place is also too expensive. Like, we're in desperation mode here, man. So what a wild number that is. $106,000 a year to afford a typical home. A lot of bad things will go hand in hand with that, man. I also wanted to show you this. Look at this, guys. Look at this. This is what it looks like in chart form, okay? Homes are unaffordable. Income needed to buy median value house versus median household income. So look, they were kind of tracking there for a little bit, and then boom, income needed to buy skyrockets. And household income has gone up, but not nearly enough. That says it all. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.